Hey there, this is Alex over at DuraLabel, and in this video we're going to be going over the process of creating an NFPA label while referring to an SDS sheet. This same process will also go over creating an RTK label, as it'll use the same information in the same setup. In order to begin, I'm going to select the NFPA option along the left-hand side. Once that's been selected, I'll just want to make sure the NFPA diamond option is selected. Like I mentioned, this will apply for RTK as well. I'm going to begin working in the NFPA area though, and anything that we do work on in here, if we do ever need to change later, can always be applied to the RTK without needing to re-enter any information. So go ahead and make sure you do have the appropriate options selected at the beginning. If you do choose the RTK option, it just might look a little visually different from mine, but the information will still be the same as we work on it. Go ahead and click OK, and then we can begin. The first thing that I suggest doing is determining which database you want to work within. By default, it's already going to be loaded into the NFPA database, which will have the 1700 records already preloaded. Alternatively, you can use the NFPA empty list that we have, which won't have any records already loaded, and you can add in custom ones all through there. If you are going to use the NFPA database, just bear in mind we do still have the search bar that'll be up top. That way you can search for what you're looking for as you do add those into this database. For myself though, I'm going to actually use the empty database. I like to keep things a little more organized that way, and I find it's a little easier to get to what I'm looking for, since usually I don't have that many chemical labels I'm ultimately needing to print out. To get to the empty database, go ahead and click on the settings option along the right hand side. You'll see this load database option, and then we'll just want to highlight the correct one we want to switch over to, and this can apply if you switch over into the empty and you end up wanting to actually go back to NFPA. Same steps to follow. Once you have the correct database that you want to work within selected, just go ahead and click on OK. For the empty one, this will now bring us to a spot where we have a new chemical before us and we can start editing it. If you do want to work in the default NFPA database, however, I do suggest one step before, and that's to actually add a new label. I'll show you what that looks like really quick once I get back over there. Now that I'm back in the default database, we can see that this is now a selectable option. You'll just click on that, and similar to the empty, you'll be presented with this new chemical. That way you can add all the relevant information instead of editing a pre-existing chemical. I'm going to make my way back into the empty database though, again for my needs. Once I get back there, we'll begin filling out all of our information. Now that I'm back in the empty database, I'm going to begin entering the information for chemical name as well as the CAS number. Both that information will traditionally be found in section 1. I'll get that added in and show where we're at afterwards. With that information added, we can see that the chemical name's been updated as well as the CAS number. I do also need to add the signal word, which is just in section 2, which luckily is close enough I was able to see that I'll need to add this warning option in. From here, I'm going to begin adding the ratings themselves. In order to find those, they'll traditionally be located in section 5 of your SDS sheets. With my ratings now added, you may notice that my white square is currently left blank. That's going to be for any specific ratings. If you do have specific ratings that are necessary per your SDS sheet, that is something you can add by clicking this drop down and selecting the appropriate option. Since that isn't something that I need per my SDS sheet, I'm going to deselect that and just re-minimize it. That way I have a clean, organized interface to work within. Next, we're going to work on getting the health hazards as well as the organ hazards added into my label. There isn't one specific section that's necessary to look at for this. However, I do suggest looking at sections 2, 8, 11, and 15 to cross-reference information so you can add the most applicable information to your label. There may be other sections of the SDS sheet that will have applicable information as well. If you're ever not quite certain of what you're looking for, it may be beneficial to get with someone who does know a little more about SDS sheets and what you could be looking for to make sure that this label is accurate to what's needed. I'm going to work on reviewing my SDS sheet now to get that information included, and I'll get back to you once I'm done. After reviewing the SDS sheet that I have, I was able to add in the health hazards as well as the organ hazards that I was able to find that's most applicable to this chemical. Next, if you do want to include PPE symbols as well for this, you can do that. You'll just want to click on this PPE symbols drop down and select the appropriate PPE symbols. For my label, however, I'm not going to have these symbols present, so I'm not going to worry too much about including these at this time. If it is something that you would like to include, though, refer to section 8 on the SDS sheet, as that will have the applicable information for what's needed PPE-wise. Next, if any comments are needed, you can add those in as well. Similar to the PPE, I'm not going to worry too much about adding comments onto this label, so I'll be leaving this blank. but if that is something that you are requiring, go ahead and add those in. One thing to make note, if you have added that information in and you're not currently seeing that show on the label itself, you may just need to enable the comments as well as the PPE symbols by going into the setting options along the right and making sure that show PPE symbols is checked as well as show comments. Or if you only want one, making sure the appropriate one is currently selected. For my example, however, since I'm not going to be showing these PPE symbols, I'm going to just make sure that is currently deselected. If ever I do need to come back and make those changes, though, I can always do that. The next thing that we're going to want to do is actually save this record itself. In order to do that, you'll just want to select this floppy disk icon with the stack of coins and click on that. Once that's been done, it's now been added to the actual empty database, or if you're working within the default database, it'll be added to those records as well. That way, if you do ever need to change your authority type to RTK, you can always do that and all the same information will follow. I'm going to go back into the NFPA diamond option. That way, when I do print this out, it is printing out correctly on the pre-printed supply that I'm using. With that said, when you are ready to print, just select the print option along the bottom right hand side and click on print. Hopefully you were able to learn some things about creating an NFPA or RTK label while following along with an SDS sheet. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for watching. For further assistance, visit our website and contact our team for your free lifetime support.